Yeah. Oh, that's fast. Oh yeah. No.
Just my words.
Sorry, just okay.
How much you speak?
Yeah.
This another one.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah. I just have to live with it.
Yeah, it's working. It's working. It's fine. Let's go. Let's go. Whatever it is, it's good.
Are you like the technician?
I'm actually a presenter.
Okay.
But I can be technician. I've been before.
I will put the name shots and if there's any to leave them.
Oh, sorry. It's working to some degree. And the computer is which one is it? 910? That's the input. That's the game? It might not work. It's more of a
You need it.
Okay, so
we can also do
you need to underrun as 4? So we have to okay.
We need to just start with it.
Yeah.
Ja, vi har toch al jaren met deze
That's why I'm sitting here, like, so I don't have the
So we'll do it as a follow. Oh yeah.
Okay. First of all, welcome to all of you.
Recording. Over the past, as I said, over the past 3 weeks, the students from CID have been working together with people from the main library, Veterinary Library, and Nursery Library, creating concepts within areas such as services for students, services for newcomers, low income, and new services for families. During this process, they've been in dialogue with us a few times, and we've seen some small things of what the concepts might be. Today we'll get the full concepts. There'll be a process which are handled by a CID. In that process, you will be able to ask some questions for the students as well. By you, I mean the staff, the library staff. So, welcome.
I think you've done all the introduction that I was going to do pretty much. So I'll speak a bit more about the format. So we're going to do 15 minutes presentation and then 15 minutes feedback. But some of that might mean that we actually have to get up and walk around the library a little bit, because some of these projects are, part of them are working prototypes, and part of them will be presentations. So it's going to be complicated and we'll probably be wandering around, but we'll try and keep on time. We've got 4 presentations and then a break at 3:15 and then 2 more presentations after that. And before we start, I just want to say thank you again for having us in the libraries. For the second time, I did a project with the school a couple of years ago with the libraries as well. I just thank you for putting up with everyone doing crazy stuff, like using the tables, taking the tables out into the street, and all sorts of things. So thank you very much for having us, and I hope that you're inspired by the ideas, and if you want to know more about them afterwards, and you want some of the documentation, things like that, then we're very happy to give that stuff as well. So I think that the best thing is if we just start with the first group, and that is the group which has the fantastic name Tomboyonce.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophie, this is Layla, Priscilla, and our fourth team member is Inesh. And we worked on a concept called Culture in Context. So the library staff has been visiting us throughout this process and knows a lot about our insights and our process up to now. And what we're really going to focus on today is highlighting more the final concept and our experience testing that out in the field. We have a full documentation that we'll send to you after.
Okay, so we're going to start with our experience prototyping. From our key insights that we shared with you a couple of weeks back, we started to identify some assumptions that we could then build and test the prototypes in the field. So the first assumption, we have assumption 1, do customers want to know about the culture beyond soft cultural goods, for example, music and food? So it's important to highlight here that we had a pilot store and worked very closely with Mayed Ethiopian restaurant in Norbro, because the owner was very open and wanted to help us to test these assumptions and tools. We wanted to find out, the goal of this assumption and the prototyping was to find out if people went beyond just what was available to them, if their curiosity extended further than what was available. So the first tool we used was a paper prototype, so very low fidelity. We didn't want to interfere too much with the restaurant infrastructure, and we were kind of observing roles. So we did this at peak time at dinner, and the paper mats here had very light-hearted quizzes. One has just informational facts about Ethiopia. And the other tool we had was books. So we took books from the library and we placed them in the restaurant with Asias, the manager and the owner of the restaurant. And again, we were in an observing role, so we went to see if the customers took the books back to the table during dinner. We then interviewed a ton of customers after their dinner. And here's a photo. As you can see, we have the table of the books right at the front. And we also have this group of people who were also using the placemats during their dining experience. And some of the findings we had were really interesting, very positive actually. It was things like, I haven't seen this before. Also, we had a table who was sat very close to this group of people here, and they were like, I wanted the map paper mat. So it was very interesting, especially the couple here that you see at the back. This guy is a Danish host, and he was hosting a refugee. And so it was really important that he gave us some feedback, and he said that we finally had something to talk about. They had common grounds by using this tool to create dialogue between themselves, but also between them and the waiter and the staff members of the restaurant. So assumption 2 is facts don't build empathy. So after using the placemat, we felt it, as positive as the feedback was, it was a little surface level, and we really wanted to dig deeper with the customers. And we wanted to test how we could build upon empathy. So the tool we used here was a simple audio clip. So we used an audio clip of the in-depth interviews. We went out into the streets, we just spoke to anyone we could find, and they listened to a clip between 20 and 30 seconds. The response we got was all very related around this one post-it note that you can see. We asked 2 simple questions. So they listened to the audio clip. Can you please describe what you heard? And can you relate to this? And one of the responses was, can I relate? Absolutely. He's talking about the cultural divisions in Denmark. Absolutely.
So we took some clips that were actually from our interviews with immigrants coming to Denmark and asking about their experience, and then taking it out to a public space, and then just randomly going up to people who congregated there and asking them these couple questions that turned out to be really powerful. So
it's important that we went back to the library strategy here, and we were kind of figuring out how we could place this within our service. So we decided to do a digital service of an audio archive that basically allows people from the immigrant community to tell their day-to-day stories. And this could be in this visual, it could be a QR code that could be left at the restaurants, so it's an artifact that they take away with them, and then they could listen to the stories anywhere that they are. And it also allows the immigrants to put back and give back into the service. So our final, assumption 3 we have is shop owners might be unsure about participating. We found that being in field, we had questions like, are you journalists? So people were very wary to talk to us. So it was really important that we addressed this assumption with how we could build trust and security around this service. So what we did here was we developed and we made a prototype, a very high fidelity prototype, of a welcome kit. And within this welcome kit, it would describe the service in full, how they would join, what cultural topics that interest them, the window sign, and FAQs. So again, it was more of a conversation tool between the library and the small business owners. And the final assumption is assumption 4, which is human touch is missing and trust must evolve over time. So here, by again speaking with people and about this trust issue, and after spending a lot of time at MyEd, we realized that we shared a lot with him and he shared a lot with us, and the coffee ceremony that we're sharing with you today is an experience that he shared with us over time. We really built up a strong relationship with him, and I think this is where it was really key for us that a role needed to be in place in this service to be successful.
We met his mother.
Oh yes.
We met his daughter. She's here today. So it really became more like a long-term relationship, and that became really clear to us immediately once we entered his space.
So what we did is we met up with the lovely library staff who are also here today. And Lars is very happy about this. And we conducted a workshop with them to really bridge the gap between us, what the service is, what library expectations, so we could really align everything together. And we again defined this role. So we had these tools that we placed in the workshop that were empathy maps. And again, we worked together to decide exactly what skills and responsibilities that this person would have. And it resulted in it being called the cultural ambassador. So this role would come from the library. It will be a library employee. And the main points we wanted to just highlight, there was many insights that we got out of this workshop, but the main ones are they would be multilingual, multicultural, respect and trusted in both worlds, so all communities that they come from, and really passionate about social impact.
It was like we showed in the last picture, it was super interesting to have you, while we were sharing the introduction kit for science, and to see you guys speaking in Danish and later having you telling us he speaks so much fluent in Danish, and like you were able to communicate and like open this relationship in a much more powerful way than we could at the moment.
Yeah, so the biggest insight that we're really working with this project was the idea that immigrants are not just consumers of services, but actually leaders in defining what these services should be, contributors, and also curators of the content and materials from the library. And that was really the basis for our concept, Culture in Context. This is a service that provides cultural resources to immigrant small business owners, sparking conversation and enriching their customers' overall experience. So the library is really still the core of this idea. They're supplying all the touch points that you saw Layla describe earlier. The key one being the cultural ambassador and the welcome kit. So we need like hard facts about how you sign up, but a human touch that is acting as that interface with the small business owners. And inside the small businesses, there's going to be materials provided by the library, and also this final experience where you take away something from the establishment as you go out into the street, which is the digital audio archive, which then loops the customers back into the library. So this is kind of the stakeholder map of our entire service, where you can see there's exchange between what the cultural ambassador is learning out on the streets and then bringing that back into the library. Also creating exchange between the small business owners and cultural ambassadors, which then influences the customers of that establishment, and then hopefully in the end bringing new customers that were previously unreachable to the library based on those tight-knit communities. So the value proposition for the library is that you plug into these existing immigrant networks. that you develop long-term partnerships with these business owners and inform the future service offerings in your strategy for how the library develops. For the shop owners, they have a sense of inclusion in the wider Danish society, that they're really empowered in the local community and also improve their customer experience. So that is our content for today.
So we have just the video now that's going to show all of this together. This video is live prototyping. It looks very high fidelity, but we just clear up that this is what our experience prototyping was in the field.
And after the video, then we'll invite you to our experience zone outside this wall quickly.
He muted the sound, so much.
Which one? Who was doing this? What was the ruling? We don't know which chat.
He muted it, so one of them that's muted what?
Let's put them all.
Yeah, that one did.
No, that's us.
That's you.
Oh,
No, that's us.
Okay, you're-
No, just, yeah, okay.
Try again.
There's invisible wall in this country. You discover only when you really stay here and learn or work here and live long time. Because otherwise you think the society is working, everybody's good, Danish, they're very laid down, cool people, intelligent, clever, educated. But behind that scene is a box. I mean, everybody knows where it belongs. So, but nobody says it clearly. And that was the invisible wall. We hit.
Denmark is widely recognized as the happiest country in the world.
We don't have that basic fear of if everything goes wrong, Denmark happens. I mean, we have free healthcare, we have free education, we have, if you lose your job, you have pretty good benefits.
In 2014, Denmark received an all-time record for the highest number of immigrants in a single year.
They come from what? They listen to this river from Italy. You know, we've seen it maybe. So there they are something many but they have almost have shop in there. We can't see it, but they have, you know, to that river, small boats, the shop, you know, some of them sick. So they need help.
Often, the qualifications these immigrants bring aren't recognized by Danish society. This forces immigrants either to repeat education or often just accept lower skilled positions.
So it was a kind of a, meet a kind of a, it was a shocking when we discovered that. And just because your name is different, you can't get that professional job. And you studied so many years, and all the things you're working, studying, and behaving, suddenly it doesn't work.
Tight-knit communities form, where restaurants, corner stores, and barbershops become unofficial hubs for civil services, language exchange, and integration.
This whole area,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
we like each other. That's very, yeah. But we take care of each other, we help each other.
Culture in Context is a service that connects immigrant business owners with the library to foster long-term dialogue. This exchange of expertise between these community members and the library informs the future library offerings, while also empowering the shop owner's inclusion in a larger society and the customer's overall experience. A library employee, the cultural ambassador, presents the shop owner with the welcome kit and introduces the service.
No. We had some problems exporting.
They arrange a time to meet and together choose materials from the library. As the customer's curiosity evolves, the cultural ambassador returns a few times a year to refresh the materials and develop the offering together with the shop owner. The experience continues beyond the shop with the library's audio archive, an oral history documenting the lives of immigrants of the community.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I heard that it seems like we're happy, clever people, but there's some kind of invisible wall between us and the, as an example, small people.
Okay, so now we would like to invite you to see our experience through the side by side, which is how we imagine this relationship to develop later between the library and the small business owners. They have a lot to offer to the Danish culture, and I'm sure that there's a lot that you guys can get from them too. So let's go.
This is Harekwa, and she's demonstrating the traditional
Coffee ceremony. Oh yeah. So part of the ceremony is the popcorn, which is something that people eat while they drink the coffee. It's delicious, by the way. And we also brought the bread, so you guys try it out as well. Yeah, there's also the incense that is part of the ceremony. Is it ready? Yes, you can serve it. I'll help you out. The coffee ceremony might take hours actually. It's something that people do every day in their houses if possible. We were talking to Isaias and he was telling us, oh, my mom, she's older, she does this twice a day with her friends. So it's like a way to connect with people and to hang out. Almost like a meditation process, right? Yeah, maybe 5 or 6 times a day. Amazing. Yeah, we can take some questions.
Any questions?
You know a lot about this stuff about China, right? Connecting to info.
It doesn't work on public networks.
Can you also make your own network?
Yeah, I think so.
Data was
Did you get a message from me?
Yeah, how come?
You guys sent a message to the group, so that's good.
Can you make your own network?
You can make your own network on the Mac, yeah.
Will it work?
It should do.
Can you make your own network? Do it.
From the wireless, it's very simple. You click the Wi-Fi sign, you click create new network.
Okay, see that yet?
You have it?
No, almost. Don't cut like 4G.
Did they turn off the mics or what? Then you can't hear this.
Because we're not talking to him.
Okay, so on the cameraman app, new guest, yeah, okay. Let's see. White jersey. This one?
Just a second.
Give me your email actually, it's the best.
Yeah, hello, David.
Hello. It's not always very good actually. Almost.
Do with the account.
Done.
Hello, David. I'm in the
Yes. Okay, let's see what happens. Wait, done. First, let's just quickly see. Here's public view. Okay, do you accept it?
yes.
I don't see you.
I see you.
Okay, switch the camera around, put it towards the screen.
Yes.
Okay, all now.
Click the little arrow.
No.
Any other questions?
Okay. It should very soon switch.
Yes, Has. I was wondering what work you've done in how to set up these relationships and how to broaden this network between the library and the multiple business owners that exist in Denmark. So the question was, I think it was, what work have we done to understand how we could scale this to work with other business owners, right?
I guess, as we mentioned, like building a trust relationship with these people is key. So the role of the cultural ambassador will be the most important bridge between the library and these people in that sense. So when you create this bond, like we were imagining that there were cultural ambassadors responsible for different establishments or maybe communities. So I guess this is a starting point. And then from that, according to the need of the regions or interested people.
I mean, I think one important outcome from our workshop that Lars mentioned is the cultural ambassador has to have methods and be very process-oriented and hands-on and prototyping and a maker. And this is really because different shop owners have drastically different needs. So in one like Lebanese ethnic supermarket, he said, I'm promoting camel's milk, and I want my customers who are 95% Danish to understand the benefits of camel milk. And that would be one need of mine. So it's really a challenge of agility and flexibility.
We show some of the examples of the prototypes, but they are not like fixed procedures for everyone. I guess it's about the development with each one of these people that we're working with.
I guess we're out of time, right? Oh, we're not out of time. Any other questions from the library or from any other person from the community here? Yeah, or anyone?
It's not so much a quick question as a comment. I had the fortune of visiting yesterday with you, and it was interesting how much the owner there could see himself as being a part of something bigger than just being the Ethiopian community. And he's an entry level for the library or for the culture houses or whatever to a network that we don't have an entry level to in advance. So I think spotting different entry-level partners to different networks could be very interesting, and something that we should think of in the libraries as a strategy, so that we don't just go out to every business in one part of the city, but strategically think about who do we want to address and what networks do we want to enter.
Yeah, one interesting translation from yesterday that Lars told us. Lars asked the owner of the business, how many Ethiopians are there in Copenhagen? He said 2,000 to 3,000. And you asked, how many of them do you know? And he said, I know all of them. And this is a guy that says, I don't have a strong presence in my community, but we just take care of each other. So, but there's clearly an opportunity here for scalability and for reach, absolutely. Annalie, did you have a question?
Could you guys talk a little more about the dialogue that you maybe saw come out of the service? Because you spoke about dialogue to some extent when you observed in the restaurant in the early prototyping, and then you went from there to kind of creating this overall perspective. So I was curious about in this iteration too, from the restaurant, then what have you seen in terms of people's dialogue around this service after using this service?
So I think the question is the dialogue that was created as a result of the service? Like now, you mean? Oh, okay. Now, what are, yeah.
I guess what we have here today is a result of this dialogue, actually. Is like having them feeling comfortable enough to give this for us. To actually like give us access to this. I was never able to see this. I don't know if any of you had seen it before, an Ethiopian coffee ceremony, but we wouldn't be in touch with this if we didn't like build this relationship with him.
I think it's also like giving the shop owner a real sense of impact. Because we told him, I called him yesterday, I was like, okay, I need to get this coffee ceremony together tomorrow inside the library. I'm going to call Lars is going to call Renee is going to call Pia, and we're going to ask if we can have fire in here. I'm like, okay, we're going to try it. And it was kind of shocking to think like, are people like even interested? And then he walked in here at 11:30 or 12 and said, wow, like this is amazing to do this in this space. And I think that's the first step in like starting to break down these invisible walls, is making people feel important.
Basically that point, but I mean, we really wanted to empower, and SIS was our main pilot store, and as you can see, it's definitely, he's empowered us, we've empowered him. I think it's such a mutual respect that we've built to the last 3 weeks. And if this project was to go further, we could conquer the world, I feel like, with this project. And I think the dialogue here today is really also more about scalability and how can we now start to access different cultures, which I think because we have such a successful experience prototyping that we've done, and it looks so high fidelity and real, that we're able to have these more further questions that we haven't necessarily had the time to even think about ourselves. So it's been great. wondering, like what exactly, like the aspects that allowed you to engage with him so strongly, and how you'd be able to like take that into other places. I think we started really vague. We just walked in and had such an open conversation with him. So it was really like a moment for him to tell his story, and we gave him the space to do that, basically. And he was already really engaged. One of his quotes is, I have been wanting to do this for such a long time, even just simple thing by putting books in his restaurant. We were able to do that for him. So it opened up his mind, and we started talking further and further. So yeah, it was just starting broad and kind of then moving into the little facts that we got from his stories.
Wants to give a voice to these people that are normally not heard, you know, that like they come into a new country like full of fears, and like clearly they don't blend physically here, and so it was very powerful in that sense to see how strong it can be to really empower someone. Like, we have knowledge, we have resources, we can offer you this. What would you like?
Yeah. And I think it's about the cultural ambassador, getting out there, casting a wide net. We spoke to 15 people before we found one who would help us. So. Please say thank you also to our guests, Rita and Hanakwa. Ruth. Please enter back into the presentation space.
Hello there.
Who's the next one to drop the mic?
Yeah, sure. We took out one.
Yeah, just here.
Yeah, sure. Are you still using me? Yeah. No. Okay, good. No, you're still presented to everyone.
Yeah.
I'm still presented to everyone.
Yeah. Look.
Okay.
It's like I
stop now.
Yeah, you can disconnect.
Yeah.
Keep your
audio. What about audio?
I don't know. You want to go into the power right away? You have your Oh yeah, no worries. That's hello. I'll just go
No, Leila, what she did.
Charlie, the volume is really, really low.
Yeah. Here, mine one.
Why is that not over here?
No, because they removed. I did.
Which one?
I left the ones that weren't.
Hello.
Which is visible. But I left them on the. Well, is it working, guys?
Hi everyone. This is the four of us. My name is Tristan, and this is Luke, Luca, and Steve. And I'm going to tell you a bit about our project. So the brief, as you saw earlier, was the brief that we were giving was to create learning opportunities for within the library to help all students and people in Copenhagen to get smarter together. That was our goal. So our aim target group was students from 17 to 22 years old who are studying in different educational institutions around Copenhagen, both vocational and academic. So our initial research, I apologize, a bit sick. Our initial research, we started basically just going out and trying to find as many people as we could talk to. So how we did this was first guerrilla research, basically going around the libraries and places with a lot of students and just talking to them, asking about what it is that they're troubled with, what we could help them, what things that kind of they want to have improved. Also, we did in-depth interviews with 4 people who are also students here in Copenhagen from various backgrounds and studying in various schools. Our interviews, I'm just kind of skipping through them a little bit quickly because we walked through it and we'll show you more later. Our research tools were basically around learning buckets. What we mean by that is we asked all of the students to tell us the things that they've learned and the things that they want to learn, and to kind of group them in these buckets. So buckets are basically showing the methods of the way they use various sources to learn. And the last tool was we asked them to design their own environment. We didn't really think that they would use this tool in the way they did, because we've given them a blank space and 2 sets of squares, large ones and smaller ones. And what they did is basically describing an emotional connection to the environment that they wish that they had, in which they could learn. And this kind of led to our findings, which Luke will talk more about.
Yeah, thank you. So we had about 6 findings, and 2 of them led to our concept. One of the more important ones was actually peer-to-peer experience. What we found out is that young students have a desire to engage one another in order to contribute to each other's work, and in that sense create a more meaningful and rich way of learning. And yeah, what is rich and meaningful? What we noticed from, for example, Karen, what she said is like she really feels learning from other people is for her much faster and and she actually learns more in a deeper way. And she also said that she wants to be able to talk to experts, and she wants to have the right information from the right experts, because she feels that it takes a lot of time, and she also wants to be able to have these experts more quickly for her, at her disposal. And then for the next one, we had motivation. Intrinsic motivation, coming from interest in the subject, is the most effective driver for young students. And this even goes beyond formal grades. This was something Chiara said. She really feels that grades for her are something that she gets nervous about. And when she gets motivated into one of the subjects, she feels that she's able to learn it a lot more effectively, compared to just getting extrinsic motivation like grades or like something else like presence. Also, what we heard after some experience prototyping is that it's more interesting to hear what normal people think of a book, because they must really care about it when they want to write a review. Because what some people are actually saying is that what you see when you go to a bookshop is there's like reviews from people who actually work there, but people feel like these reviews are sometimes biased because they're from the people who actually want to sell the books or want to lend you the books. And when people actually are reading the books and giving you these reviews, they feel a lot more genuine and real. So this led us to two concepts, which we did some experience design around. And we did that over the course of a couple of days. And by doing this experience design, basically experience prototyping, that's the correct word. Basically, we decided upon one concept. So the first one is the white book library. With the white book library, digital and physical marks are used to leave comments and recommendations about the materials in the library in order to change the perception and bias of books. So what we did, as one of the main things for the experience prototype, is we covered all the books in one of the tables here in this library with white paper, and then we've written reviews on top of them and see how people are interacting with those books and if they actually want to lend them as well, and also are interested in the reviews. Then for the other concept, we had study recipes. Study recipes is a service which helps students to find and create the perfect environment to study in the library. The system helps connect students with similar studies and interests. So what came out of this insight was that out of this concept was the insight that a lot of people feel that there are so many people studying in, but they're not really connected. And we had a lot of problems experience prototyping this because it's actually kind of hard to get students to start talking to each other. And eventually we tested this last experience prototype, which is sort of like a central hub of questioning. As you can see in the picture, it's basically, we sat in the middle and we said that we had a question or they could ask us a question. And people were really curious and they were coming up when we have, for example, held a sign with, okay, we have a question about Copenhagen, about biking, about cars, or whatever, really simple questions really broad that piqued people's interest. And they came up to us, asked us questions about it, or were actually curious to what kind of questions we had. So that was also quite nice to do. So we have a small video, which is kind of our research video, and I'll explain a little bit more on top of it. So the first one is the study recipes, and we tried also like asking different people what they were studying and combining, but really like sitting in one space worked really well. Then for the next one, the white book library, we tested it with the white book papers, and we also tried to ask for active participation by asking for reviews while they were putting in their books in the machines. And this was actually quite difficult for them as well, because they just want to give the books back to the library and not necessarily give a review. So we tested this a lot, and what really worked well was just giving them a simple yes or no answer if they liked the book. And they preferred a lot more to actually just be at home and write a review right after they've read the book, instead of coming here and then having to write a review. So yeah, that was a quick impression. So now we have the white book library, and
yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna talk you about the concept we went for, the one we thought was more stronger. And we developed a service around the white library, and the service, so it's called the White Book Library, is a service that uses the community inside the library to change the way people perceive books. And our goal is to make people look past book covers and trust their peers in book selection. And now we have a small video that's gonna show you like how the service actually works.
Sophia is looking for another book in the library. Hey, don't go to that table. Why don't you try out the White Book Library? We have stripped all the books from their book covers and replaced them by reviews by the Copenhagen community, so Sophia can have a glimpse of what people felt when reading the book, instead of what the book is about. Take your time, take your time. Marco just read another e-book, since the White Book Library also exists in the digital world. He leaves a review for his followers to read on the mobile app. He is now checking out other books in the reading list from his twin reader online. Now, back to Sophia. Hey Sophia, if you like this one, why don't you try out another book from the same reviewer?
Sure.
And next time, don't forget to leave your comment.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about the value for the user. So the easiest one is easy access to information, since you don't have to go around and research, you have it straight away on the book. Then we also wanted this community shared knowledge, which means that you have to trust your peers, but also that if you're reading about any kind of like academic books, you have suggestions by other people that read and studied on these academic books straight away on the cover. And this white covers allows neutrality, so you're not biased by the cover itself. The service develops through 3 different platforms. The first one is stickers on the white books, which have different titles, like usually endorsement or suggestion about other books. Then we have the white web, which is our web app, where you can actually endorse ebooks or also read the sticker comment, even online, and the length of the stripe represent how much this book is written or how many comments that it has. We have, oops. So it's not straight. Okay. So, and then we have the white app, which is basically another platform tool where you can use the app and look for books, read the comments, and also adjust your profile and improve it. So, service design, our blueprint evolves through 2 circular phases. We start with a known user, which then enters the library and can already start being our passive user and maybe read and take a book because of the comments. And as soon as he starts logging in and registering to the app, he starts beginning to be a user, but still he's a passive user because he becomes an active user as soon as he leaves his first comment. And in this other circular phase, he can then grow and develop his identity, which means that he can improve his way of leaving the comment, personalize his stickers, his comments, or anything else book related. And there is an endpoint, which is when our user leaves our service, where he then became again a passive user, and he usually gets a goodbye sticker from us. And now the path to participation, and I'm gonna let Justin talk about it.
So there are a lot of layers and different users to this service. I'm gonna quickly go through them. Hopefully you'll stay with me. So we have 5 main users. We have the visitor, the enthusiast, the bookie, the bookworm, and the librarian. And they all have their reasons to be in that position or wanting to go to a higher level. And I'm gonna go more into detail of those. So the visitor is a visitor by simply accessing the library. So they lend the books and they use the reviews to select a new book to read. But why would they want to go to another level? The driver can be to gain access to this knowledge of influencers on the digital platform. A hurdle might be to be active on this digital platform, it asks, it's a certain threshold. But then they can go to the enthusiast. And this enthusiast is someone who has created a profile on the digital platform. And now they can get access to the reading lists of other members of the community, get inspired, and yeah, go further in this love of books. But when they want to go to another level, they could get prompted with book suggestions. So now on, it will be two-directional. You don't have to go look for inspiration, but people actually inspire you. But a hurdle might be that they actually have to write reviews from that point on. But then you're a bookie, and you write reviews, and you get prompts by twin readers, so they connect you with people who almost have the same books, but you can see which books you're still missing, and you can tune into their reading list and get packages delivered or made ready for you. But they might want to go a step higher, and this is to build a personal reader identity and a brand of influence, because people who are passionate about a book, they want to share it, and they want other people to experience the same thing. But they have to give access to their reading list. So maybe there are books you don't want to share with other people. It might be something personal. But then we have the bookworms, and this is the almost last level you can be in. And you can actually create reading lists, and you have followers in the digital and in the physical world, because you get a monthly suggestion in your mail, and you get personal stickers, so people in the physical world on the books can see who you are, and they can go look for other books you reviewed, because they see you as like a stamp of approval. There's another level higher, so why would they go there? Is actually to build on this personal reader identity, and to really gain a public face within the library superstars. But it demands a high commitment, because you actually have to read a lot of books, review, people still want new content always, so you have to be really into books for that. But you might reach the librarian status, which is a status where you get to set up a table in the library with your books and the books you want people to read. So you get kind of a profile within the library, and you would get a say in the monthly book purchases. So you would be kind of a part of the library, and you get to shape where the direction it's going into and what kind of books. And yeah, it's very important for a librarian like this. But what should the municipality do in this system? So we still have the same steps. And for all the users of the library, the books need to be covered, of course, otherwise there's no white book library. So the library municipality would be covering all these books in those covers and give them appropriate titles. In the next step, they would actually provide people with stickers to write reviews on, and they would supervise the system a bit so people don't write inappropriate comments and other stuff that is not totally within the concept. In the next step, they would actually start sending the stickers out to people, personalized stickers, and these newsletters that hopefully one of you got as a small user test. Aha, we have one. And in the highest level, they choose who gets to design these book tables and where they get placed in the library, a little bit of curation. So basically that's our service, but our library table is still active. So I invite you all to go and check it out and read some of the reviews and maybe take a book home. Thank you.
Should we just take questions here? Because you haven't got much time. And we can go and have a look at the table after, I think. Yeah? Okay. Yeah, questions.
Someone with the mic.
First of all, I'm very impressed. I really like, I did get to see sort of the prototype being sent, and I really like the concept of, again, meeting people where they are, basically at their homes in a very simple way. And that also really like the thought of potentially the citizen who curate part of the library. But could there also be a connection to other digital sort of book services? Because as you mentioned, it's quite difficult to get it started maybe. So if you look at the library in a broader context, would that make any difference to the concept?
Yeah, like I said, it's a hurdle, this digital platform, but if you see that there are a lot of drivers that follow past that point, and so if people really are serious about reading, they can only access these information and these reading lists once they enter the digital platform, and once they cross this hurdle, they might be inspired to really keep going on that digital platform, we hope.
Any other questions?
Could you say a little bit more about your twin reader idea? You sort of mentioned it in passing, but it sounded intriguing.
So basically, we noticed that a lot of people actually have books in common that they read, and they love the same kind of topics. And as soon as you're into the system starts also analyzing what kind of books do you actually read. And it tries to identify somebody that has the same taste in book as you, and try to endorse book that you may actually read. And so you're supposed to read books with them, but there are even more function, which is also trying to meet up with this twin reader and have a variety of books that you two can read and discuss together. So it's also a way to make people come together and discuss about books.
It was another experiment we did, but the one where I sat in the middle of the space. I said, I have a question about books, and once I told people like, oh yeah, I like to read historical novels, then suddenly this enthusiasm of having read the same book, but giving some extra books to read, it was something very powerful, and because people they trust your judgment on books once they know you like the same books. They trust that you know what's good for them also, and yeah, it was very powerful to see how much enthusiasm came from having the same book list but having something to add.
I think there's something there for sure, and I would be. Did you guys mention having potentially like events or something like that from the library, like from these twins or these connections?
You mean like organizing events? No, because we think our idea was to have the students or the users of the service curate the space together and curate the books together and curate like what suggestions. There are events going on within the library, so we kind of steered into something that's not already existing.
Okay. And then my other thought or question especially about this twin ideas, would you ever consider having like an anti-twin situation where, here's your twin and then here's the person or here's the reading list, which is totally opposite to what you typically read. So having this kind of archive of information about someone's patterns might also help them explore what they aren't looking at automatically.
No, we haven't, because we were more focused on how to bring things that you might be interested, because that doesn't necessarily exclude things that you wouldn't usually go for. That means that it can be, you like this style, that style it can be in a book that you're not normally reading, so it can be still something that you would go for. So we thought of it in that terms, in that context. So suggesting you things that you would like and finding inspiration from things that you already read.
Plus, usually the decision of books that you may like are coming from algorithm, and in this case, you actually have a physical person to even ask more questions. And in the case of having an anti-twin, there would be too much effort for the person itself to actually accept the other people's kind of books that he likes. It's easier for a person to try out something that he already may know than to go for something completely opposite.
Hey, I just wanted to commend you on the really nice segmentation of your service. It was really nice to see so clearly how your service gave more the more that the user gave. Thank you for that. And then I'm just really curious about the experience prototype and what you observed there. Was there any interesting behaviors? Were there any hacks? Did people automatically take off the cover? That kind of thing?
Yeah, some actually did. But it was actually, I think, what do we have now? Like 10, 12 books have been landed out as well. Because we actually counted how many books were there. But I think in general we had a lot of conversations about like what kind of books they liked, and indeed the first iteration that we had didn't have titles on them, and that was one of the main things. Obviously, like, okay, that's the minimum amount of information that you want to have on the book at least, and then also. Getting these conversations we saw two people come there and start talking to each other, basically about the review that was on the book. So that was interesting to see as well. I think you have some other.
So a lot of people actually took off the covers, but there were, just because it's something they're used to, and they weren't attached very well. But then I talked to them, and then we started talking and say, yes, I normally choose my book. I wouldn't necessarily go for a book with a cover that I don't like. And once they started talking about it, they realized that they might be missing a really good book by doing this, and it made them more open for these reviews from other people. We had also some very poetic people saying that it was the book like revealing a bit from itself. This is a nice way of putting it, but there was definitely a distinction between people who definitely said like, okay, I still like my covers, but also people who saw the value of the neutrality and the blind trusting other people from your community.
Hi. Thank you for a very nice presentation, very interesting. And actually I wanted to touch on the topic that just mentioned now about the white pages or the white papers on the books. Because, well, there's some practicalities involved with this, as you also mentioned in the presentation. But what are your thoughts of leaving that point out? I know it's difficult for the white library, but doing some of the stuff anyways, working with how to connect people, how to electronically, digitally, or in physical work, without having all the work with covering the books in white paper.
That's actually the question, because one of the things I observed, I was filming from the second floor, and there was this gentleman who went through each and every book, not opening it, but actually reading the stickers. So what we found that, yes, it's called White Book Library, but the actual content of the stickers, it's what drives it, and that's why we kept pushing it, because to them it was more about finding a good review and finding a good book that they would like, that would keep people going. So I think that it would work equally fine without the white cover.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, you just got one.
I was lucky enough to actually getting your prototype. I love this idea about having power users of the library being able to add to the books. I was envisioning this as on the last page of the book, so that when I was done reading this book, I would actually get this sticker from a power user. But I said, if you like this book, you check out this. I love the idea of having users engaged in the physical books as well. And I don't read a book and then go to a website and read what should I read based on others who have read this book. That's not the way I usually find books. This is the way I would be interested in. Yeah, great idea.
Yeah, we also asked people, like, we can easily have it being printed on the stickers, but for the physical books, people are very, very persistent on having it handwritten. So they would really see that there was people behind those stickers, and it was more of this, yeah, the real feeling of community. Do we have time to see the book table?
I think we should move on to the next one. I think that during the break that we can go out and have a look at it, because we've seen it pretty well there. But thank you very much.
Just a quick comment, if anyone is thirsty, there's some water and some Coke. Feel free to take one.
Do we need two?
Yeah.
How do we cycle? I don't know. What should we do?
Yeah, just like
go up now?
just the other side, yeah.
Go up.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yes, you are.
Hello, everybody.
Down again. Oh yeah. Same one.
Try again.
Hello.
No.
Hi.
It's off. It's on.
No, it's not.
Keeps this in.
Echo.
Echo. Good up.
Hi, everybody. We are Bib TV. We are live on YouTube right now. As you might have realized, we are broadcasting whole CIID service design presentations since the beginning. And our core team is me, Senna, Cyrus, Dan, and Charlie. I'll explain a little bit of our process. So at the beginning, we started to think about a little bit challenging the idea of what is a library, the concept and conventions of a library itself, while we were at the same time thinking about our target group, which was newcomers. We ended up formulating our target group as immigrants, and we conducted a lot of research
And we created a lot of tools. And also we did many in-depth interviews from that target group. Yeah, our interviews validated some of our ideas, and at the end we wanted to take a more provocative way. Actually, these are scary reactions of our classmates to our first idea. So our first idea was a game show. Yeah, even though you cannot read it right now. Yeah, and we tried out one of the challenges of the game show. The game show was about putting the concept of integration to a test from the perception of the people.
De slagen. Ja, dat is opstaan. Nog een keer. Heel veel.
So this was a Smurfbro challenge that we did just to making fun of cultural stereotypes, and this was the direction that we were going actually. Until we had a meeting with Tore Quist, one of the founders of Vendigberne, the welcoming refugees movement in Denmark. And yeah, it was a really serious talk, and it was quite eye-opening for us. After that, we had to reconsider our concept, and we just realized that while humor is one way to address the integration issue, actually a video could be used in many other meaningful ways. So we came up with our new concept, which Dan will explain to you now.
Thank you, Senna. So we came up with BibTV, short for Bibliotek Television. And Bibliotek Television is a community-led TV station that enables people from all backgrounds and cultures to tell their stories with the help of the necessary equipment, tools, training, and everything by the library, so they can get their voices heard. So what you just saw there was a short showreel of the 6 productions we did over the past week. I'm going to go through them in depth for a little bit now. The first one that Trey is helping me with is Bibliotek Bonanza, pending title, but it's basically about all the many events that the library organizes. It's one of our core offerings as a TV station, and it can be used to broadcast and showcase all the events the library organizes to the world, but also as an archiving function, so you can look back at what we actually did. And then there's Slow TV. It's an emergent hype from Norway. We had this man read on live television for 3.5 hours. Giving the library over 14 hours of screen time with around 200 viewers from all over the world. And this is showing what the library also is. It's a very beautiful, silent, serene place. There's Life by Ikram, who's in the audience. Ikram came to us with little experience behind the camera, but he had a very clear idea about a show that he wanted to teach people some life lessons. So he made a show together with BibTV about showing people that by reading 3 hours a day, you can prolong your life. And don't be cool, but be open. This is a more interview style show that is about personal stories. So our first guest was Prabhakar Casey. He told us in 10-15 minutes a lot about his personal experience of coming from Nepal to Denmark, the differences in culture, and pretty sensitive topics such as gender diversity and the differences there and here. And he was surprised by the content we got out of him in 50 minutes. And we have the wonderful Elizabeth. She came to us with a lot of experience with camera experience, and she had a very clear idea of the show she wanted to make about children. So in her first episode, we made a show about the project she did, which revolved around visual learning and children. And it was really cool. And lastly, our last show, which is also part of our co-offerings, is Go Aftermiddag Denmark. We noticed there's a gap between the Good Morning Denmark and the Good Evening Denmark that currently exists. So we wanted to create Good Afternoon Denmark. And this is basically a talk show style broadcast from the library, where we invite people with very interesting perspectives on underrepresented cultures in Denmark to talk about that with us or with TV. And in our first episode, we had Ustad, who's also in the audience, who helped us a lot and who is the ex-minister of labor of Afghanistan and participated in the presidential elections over there. So thank you.
Thank you, Don. So as you saw, we had 6 very different kinds of shows that we created both ourselves and with people who held the cameras themselves, got into Premiere Pro themselves, and cut and edited the videos themselves, all thanks to an introductory workshop that we gave them. So when this becomes a reality, BibTV would have considered these people part of our active members now. They're either producers or contributors. And we're differentiating between producers and contributors because we believe that people come from all walks of life, and they may not always have as much time to donate to a project as someone else. And so as a producer, you'd be a more full-time member, someone producing one of the consistent shows, creating perhaps, giving workshops if you're in the expert category. And if you're a contributor, you're more of a passive member. You're coming in and out, you're contributing into BibTV, but you may not necessarily be committed full-time. And that's okay too, because we want to hear from everyone. It's important to us that our content is generated by very different kinds of people, but it still means that we still need to focus on 2 core shows. So, as you can see here, we have Bibliotek Bonanza, which covers the library. Even though we are trying to cover everyone and help them create their own shows, we are still part of the library family as Bibliotek Television. And so, of course, we need to cover and archive everything that's happening in the library. This is our first core show. The second core show is Good Aftermiddag. I can't say that for the life of me, so Good Afternoon Denmark. And in this show, this is part of the mandate to cover all the different kinds of people in Copenhagen. So with this show, we want to go into the different communities, talk to people from different neighborhoods that may not be close to Copenhagen, that may not share the same cultures and values as everyone else, and we want to understand what they think, how they feel about being here. And then lastly, our outer circle is the contributor content, and this is where people will come in and submit their own shows. They can create anything they want, of course, provided it's not criminal. And they'll be able to talk about themselves, their stories, or something they're interested in, and link it to the library in interesting ways. All this content is aimed at everyone, really. Because people can create whatever they want, they can go into a niche and dig deep into that niche, and then people from that area of interest could watch something that no one else would have created for them. And we aim to keep this audience engaged through three channels: online, in library, and with the excursions. So online, naturally using the internet to broadcast this, we are by definition online on the web. And we want to use the library's website and their various social media channels to keep people engaged with this content. Second, in library. So fortunately, we're in a country that invests heavily in these kinds of services, and we can see, even from the different places we're from, how technologically advanced the library is here. And there's all these screens that we can use. And with video, there's no better medium than a screen, right? So with this, we want to use all the different screens on the shelves and be able to connect through a smart tagging system. Content that was developed, let's say, for history would appear on the screen that's in the history shelf. And so as people are browsing books, they can pick up a book and then look at what else is available in the library. You can see on the floor upstairs how the screens work currently. and then you can just watch a video and see what people are talking about, what they're saying about in history. Lastly, the excursions, and this goes hand in hand with the Good Afternoon Denmark and the other shows that are aimed at bringing people in. So in Valby, we noticed there's this giant Christiania-like basket, and people would drive that out into the various neighborhoods in Copenhagen with books and talk about and give out those books in a temporary library sort of way. What we want to do instead is fill that with cameras and some material about how to create video and get people thinking about how they can talk to everyone else about their ideas and their points of view. Of course, this is all complicated, and due to an unfortunate technical circumstance, you can't see the top there, but we envision that this central section, the workshops and contributors, are managed by a station manager and the resource manager. These are the two full-time employees, at least initially. The station manager, their job is to make sure that our values are upheld. No one is producing criminal content, nothing is biased in a way that's for an agenda. And the second is the resource manager, whose job is to take care of the cameras and the computer and the station itself, which would require space, of course. And this is the library's main tie-in. This is, sorry, in terms of supply, of course, the library is tied in throughout the DNA of BibTV. So, why station?
Thank you, Charles, for this wonderful analysis. So, why a TV station for the library? We think it's an excellent tie-in because the library has traditionally been a place of stories, a place where people come together to learn, and of course, it's a place where people come to borrow resources. Whether it's a book, a DVD, or video game, the library is well known for this kind of facility. So by combining these two things, we're using a TV station which is community-driven, where people not only have the capability to tell their own stories, but they have the tools at their availability in order to do so. So in order to help this community run effectively and to ensure that they are empowered to work in the best manner possible, we've put together 8 values for this community to make sure that BibTV is run in a really productive way. So firstly, Bibliotek Television is a community-driven and volunteer-led television station. This is all about building a community, building a movement in the library, getting people through the doors, working together across all cultures and backgrounds and across languages. Secondly, Bibliotek Television belongs to and is for everyone. This is completely in keeping with the spirit of the library. The library is a very inclusive place, the doors are revolving and the walls are open. So we want people to come in from all backgrounds and again from all languages and work together. There is no blockage on people coming through for workshops, so everyone from different backgrounds and different levels can apply to be on them. And also the content is open to everyone to enjoy as well. Neutrality is king. As a media station, we have a responsibility to make sure that the content produced fits a certain criteria. And as Charlie mentioned, BibTV would not be producing content with any kind of agenda, be it political, religious, or commercial. A bridge between the past and the future. So the library, as I've said, is a place traditionally where stories are housed. It's also a place of learning, and there's great knowledge in these walls, and a lot of it pertains to the past. And a lot of the books are from history and speak about things which maybe are not relevant for today. And BibTV, in a new way, it's giving knowledge a new paradigm. It's putting this content in a different type of media, which maybe is more consumable for new generations. And as Dan mentioned, it's also archiving important events which are occurring in these walls for future generations to enjoy. Give a voice to everyone. So this is a really important point for us, as our initial task was to work on newcomers, and we took that as immigrants. Part of our group decision was to make sure that a lot of the content, and at least 50% of the content, would be in non-native languages. So that's why, as you saw from the sample shows we've already created, most of them, most of them are actually not in Danish. And this will be part of the mandate of the show going forward. At the same time, we wouldn't want to make this a very dogmatic decision. It's very important for us and for any community to go with the flow and to make sure that if we have a value to say 50% of the content is of a certain nature, if it goes beyond that balance in any way, we're not going to be too strict on enforcing and bringing people back. We're going to allow the content to come in freely, but work with the station managers and work with the community to try and achieve a natural balance over time. participation and engagement. As I've said, this is all about community, and the core of a community is engagement, is participation, is people wanting to be involved, not having to be involved. So at BTB, it's all about people coming together in workshops, leading workshops, taking part in workshops, trying to teach and trying to learn. And we consider those people to be active. We also consider the people who are running shows on a regular basis to be active members. And this is really important because it's the active members who are involved in the decision making. So a volunteer-led community or movement who get to make decisions for themselves, but in collaboration, in close collaboration, of course, always with the library. So, yes, we've outlined our reasons, but don't take it from us, of course, because we have a lot of other people who've taken part in workshops this week, working with BibTV, and let's hear what they have to say.
Kütüphanenin böyle bir servisi olsa
Çok güzel.
çok güzel.
Çok güzel.
Ne açıdan güzel sizce?
Yani çünkü bu konularda kimse ilgilenmiyor, ben biliyorum.
Today was really great to get the opportunity to try and show through the camera how I could use the library for good purpose.
So it's a good way to put out a story, and maybe you never know, you can get some good suggestions or something.
Will be able to do a lot of good action for the interest of the society of Denmark and also for the interest of all mankind.
So yes, just a quick thank you to everyone at the library who's helped us to make this happen, given us access to certain rooms and basically free for all in the library as well. Thank you to our classmates for participating today, allowing us to do the broadcast. It's been really kind of you to play along with us. And yeah, thanks to all the participants, people who came to the workshops, the people who are here today, Esther, Ika, and Elizabeth. And yeah, thanks to the team as well. Cheers. Open to the questions.
I'm just curious about, also from the library's perspective, this tension between when you want to do something like neutral, but at the same time bring people's voices, and a lot of times from communities that have strong opinions. And what's the question there? There was thoughts that were going to come out, but
is it about
the rarity that totally?
Is it about the likelihood of, a particular gender emerging? Or something like this?
And also, sorry, the second part of it that was more specific is sometimes it's really difficult and almost detrimental to separate religion and culture when we continue to stop talking about it, we create even more taboo by not having these discussions. But we were also in our research going with this very neutral thing. But the reality is there is religion, there is Islamophobia, and so that tension, I guess I'd be interested to know both of your opinions about it.
Yeah, so from our point of view, I suppose it's not really about being completely neutral. This is not maybe the BBC by any means. It's about giving, as you said, everyone a platform and a voice to be heard. And we're particularly focusing on groups who don't often get that voice in Denmark and who are underrepresented and may have certain religious views and cultural views, and we wouldn't restrain them. It's just a question of what those voices are, and if they do go in a certain way, if it's a particular ideology trying to be pushed, whether it's commercial, whether it's religious, whether it's anything else, that's not really within our mission. But it's not about reducing or suppressing views on us.
I'll try to answer your question. We talked a bit about 2 weeks ago that maybe the library don't necessarily needs to be neutral in a way that it sort of tries not to have a voice. We talked a bit about in Norway where they sort of have, they're supposed to be active in debate. So maybe the way sort of the community or the libraries will engage with the community could be sort of giving a perspective. If there's sort of the perspective of the voices are turned to a certain direction or whatever. So in that way, I would like to think or hear your thoughts on the library's participation in a more broad spectrum. Could you imagine that the library staff or other partners of the library to have a more sort of active part in producing? Because when community-driven, it's good that it's run on behalf of that community, but we do have partners in some way.
I think it would be fantastic. I suppose at the moment our assumption was that perhaps the library staff wouldn't have maybe enough time, let's say, at the beginning of this anyway, because it requires a lot of effort to try and get things started and rolling. So maybe more of the effort, at least we found anyway, would be involved in trying to organize other people to start producing content, getting them started. And obviously once that's up and running, if there are people within the library structure or the partners as well, there's obviously an opportunity there for people to be much more involved in content creation, ideas about how to grow things and take things in different directions, of course.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
First of all, I say that I think it's really great. I love the concept of the basic concept. It gives it up to us in some thoughts we have had in here about creating a sort of sound lab, where it's communication is based around sound. Do a lot more in podcasts as well. We want to involve the citizen in participating. So in that respect, that's some really good ideas. I would like, it's not a question. It gives me some thoughts about how could the shows that the library facilitates be maybe a bit more diverse, represent the library, because we have sort of the who works together with, let's say, culture houses and so on. So the perspectives could be different. We might need to look at ourselves and think about that. So that's just a comment.
I can make a quick comment on that as well. Just saying, when we did our kind of roving reporter style Bibliotek Bonanza, which we actually used as a method to recruit people to workshops, we found that the library is an incredibly diverse place already, and the people in here are incredibly interesting and they have amazing stories that they want to tell. So it's a real untapped resource, and that's one library. That's just here. And we know that there's many more. There's libraries all over Copenhagen and Denmark. And it's really exciting to think what could come out when you start leveraging the people throughout the network.
Okay,
Any other questions?
Yeah, I want to ask a question too. Thank you. And thank you for a very interesting presentation and a very interesting idea. One of the things I thought about during the presentation was some of the things we have to overcome, like supporting building the community. What are your thoughts about the community building around this project? Because that's, in some ways, it stands forward with the community.
Sure. Charles.
So the interesting thing about video is that generally when in previous, we've a few of us had experience with doing some community television work before. And what tends to happen is when the show is created, it creates this sort of category of interest that a particular group might want to contribute to. And so what you might get is people who aren't necessarily dedicated to Bib TV because it's Bib TV, but rather their allegiance becomes to the show, that show which is created. So say, for example, in the show, which was Lives with Kids, it would attract a following of people who are interested in working with kids. And so they would be dedicated to that community. It becomes a sub-community within the larger umbrella of Bib TV. And so then the library's role is to make sure that that community doesn't want to leave BibTV because, say, the resources here are so great, amazing editing stations or cameras, or perhaps they just find that it's extremely, what's the word, like considerate of what they want to do. So, what the hope is that because the library already has so many subjects and it can already attract so many people, with the in-library and the excursion plans we have for attracting people, that's what we want to attract people to that particular area of interest, and hope that it generates information for that category. Not necessarily, yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
I think that the way that this project touches upon the theme of getting smarter together, and also, even though you didn't even mention this, like the intergenerational learning that can take place is really nice. So I just wanted to bring up those two themes specifically, because I think you touched upon them. And the other one that you kind of went through very quickly, but I think is special, is the way that you could potentially tag the content from BibTV to specific genres of the library, so that you would present like the history-based videos in the history-based department of the library. I think that loops back very nicely, and I think the more feedback circles you could create like that for the library, the better.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sorry. The displays, yeah, no, just to that point, I mean, yeah, we did walk around the library and we saw that, and so that is something we absolutely want to look into, especially creating that tagging system. That would be very interesting.
Okay. Yeah, just what you had an initial target group called newcomers. I see this is a project for everyone, not just newcomers. How do we incorporate newcomers into this? They are, of course, a part of the target group, but how do you especially, do you have any ideas on how to especially include them all?
So,
yeah, so the Good Afternoon Denmark show, as we said, was mostly about representing those people who are usually underrepresented, and those are in Denmark usually newcomers, and also just people with interesting perspectives on that. So through those things, we think we could tell stories, and for example, the Don't Be Cool, Be Personal, the interview one, there was a guy from Nepal who was comparing his culture from Nepal to the culture in Denmark. And I think the main goal is like to tell stories, and we believe that by including everyone, but especially also newcomers, we can teach a lot of people a lot of stuff about through their stories, and have them tell them very personal experiences in Denmark and how they came here.
Yeah, just something we uncovered in the first week of research in particular was that integration is definitely a two-way street. This was one of our mottos, I think. We mentioned it to you. And that's why I mentioned in the values that 50% of the content would be non-native, meaning the other 50% is Danish. And that means the community would be a mix of people. When we have 10% of the population in Denmark being migrants, let's say, and the 90% being Danish, that's a very different balance to normal society. So that kind of community is much more representative of the unrepresented people, if that makes sense. And therefore, that's our approach anyway, to bringing in newcomers, not just to have a community of newcomers, but to have a blend where people can really integrate and mix.
Last question.
Dear audience, I'm very happy to find myself between you.
Turn this way.
Excuse me. Dear audience, I'm very happy to find myself between you because as I have distinguished, you are the people, ladies and gentlemen, with good feeling and gathering here when there are good feeling with you, your gathering is more valuable and appreciable. But regarding of the structure of man, there are some kind of instinct with the man. One of the instinct is when man see some people, they are under the pressure of some kind of despotism, their structure shows some kind of reaction to help those people who are oppressed people. With the regarding of this, we can't be neutral because we must obey our structure, our motivation, which have root in our structure, and we must stand beside the oppressed people. It is one. But it is recommendation. I have no any question. As I have experience, because third of course of my life have been spent in struggling and defending from the right of mankind. I'm from Afghanistan. I have a lot of experience from the time the USSR invaded in Afghanistan. I was forced to migrate in Pakistan and some other countries. Recently, I came here. I living here as political refugee. But with the regarding of the structure you and me and all other men have, we belong to all mankind, not to one society, not to one race, not to one color, one tribe, one country. When we believe in God, when we believe in humanity, when we believe in ourselves, there are some kind of activities we must have. If there be, because mankind have a dignity, when you pay attention about the universe, there are no any phenomena, macro or micro. They have the dignity the man have. The dignity the man have, one from every man, men and women, to make some kind of proportion between their life, between the program they have, and between the dignity the man have.
Thanks, Istan.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, we have to, because there's other groups have to come.
Yes.
But thank you for your comments. Thanks very much.
Thank you for your comment. Very powerful.
never used a microphone. It's really. No, I never Okay, hi everybody. For me it's the first time to use a microphone, so yeah, I'll try. First to introduce ourselves, my name is Lars, Adriana, Monica, and we have a fourth team member who couldn't be here today, but he took a large part in the process actually. I would start with just to remind you where we started from. Our question was, how do families get smarter together? Yeah. And we came up with this how might we question. And I won't read it out. The main part is we focus on partnerships and on learning by exploration. That was our starting point. And yeah, the starting point came from a lot of in-depth interviews. The first one, the first insight was this topic of digital fear. Parents fear that the children get too obsessed by technology and on iPhones and smartphones. And yeah, so that was one large topic actually. The second topic was exploring nature. Kids learn from nature. That means they learn by experience. And that was one of our main insights. That led us to our main focus. We try to encourage this natural learning process, this learning by experience, and try to discover what role the library could take. And yeah, we focus on the botanical garden because we wanted to use one partnership, and we picked the botanical garden because it's a public institution and it has an educational mission. So it was perfect for our purpose, actually. Okay, and with a lot of experience prototypes, we tried to figure out how this collaboration could look like. So actually, we tried a lot of random stuff. We just show you a quick video on what we did.
Do we have sound?
Yeah. Is it plugged in? Increase. Okay.
My name is Rafaela. I'm American. I'm from Italy.
What are you doing besides being a mom?
My job is to cook in a kindergarten.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. Oh.
The first class basically just you can draw or write or whatever from this list.
Padre Ismail?
Should I?
Yes.
We find a way of making this place a little bit more interactive for kids so they can get engaged and be more curious about topics like biology and other.
Encontrei uma floresta. Deixa eu ver, vem aqui ouvir.
This movie story just tells us about papaya, which is a parrot which is created.
Look at the next page. Is it purple? You like the purple page? You like the, what, do you know what this is? It's a monkey like you.
Okay, so you saw we tried a lot of different things actually. We had some large posters in the Botanical Garden that people could draw on, and yeah, it was more like random exploration than planned stuff. But we found out a lot actually, and a lot of the stuff you will find in the concept. The first thing we learned on triggering imagination with audio is quite a powerful tool. Children love audio, and in the context of the Botanical Garden, it's especially powerful because no one will sit there and read a book. So that was the first insight. The second one is that parents want to prepare before they go on the journey. That's why travel books are so common. People just want to know what they expect or what they have to expect. We tried this also with this bike in Norebro, and yeah. The last one is the power of stickers. We had a lot of blank stickers inside the Botanical Garden, and we asked parents to, every time when your child asks to do something, to write the question down and stick it where it belongs. And we, yeah, in the end, the whole Botanical Garden was full of stickers. Yeah, we will see this later in the concept, which Monica will explain.
This is our service, Adventure Pack. We try to combine the world of library and the outside world of imagination. If I could briefly explain that, it's working like this. You're learning an experience at the library, and the experience is a backpack. It's as easy as you would lend a book. We discovered something special about this project. There's a lot of places around Copenhagen, but also in other cities, that are specially designed for kids. But there's a lot of historical places, such as castles or botanical gardens, that are not meant for kids at all. And we decided to focus on these ones because they're beautiful and because they can trigger kids' imagination, even though they're not accessible for them now. So we created this concept of having a backpack. The backpack is a different experience, so every backpack is created by different partners. And this particular backpack that we prototyped for this service with Botanical Garden. We created this special character, which is a parrot. And now let's see the video. Yeah.
My name is Papaya. I'm a parrot and companion of the team who created this journey. I'll introduce you to Adventure Pack. It's a service that expands the traditional offering of libraries in order to foster learning by exploration for preschool children. Oh goody! It's no secret that children learn best through experience. Animals and plants stimulate their imagination and creativity. There are a lot of historical places in Copenhagen, but Often the knowledge and stories of these landmarks are only accessible to grown-ups. Oh no! Adventure Park reinterprets these places through a partnership between the Copenhagen Library and various other knowledge institutions. By specifically focusing on knowledge exchange, adventure parks are added to the children's section of the library. Each adventure pack is tailored towards a specific place, such as the botanical garden. You'll find a conventional book inside that introduces the story. Instead of lending a book, you just lend an experience. In order to start with the story, you can exchange a key or a map which guides you through the different locations. Headphones as core part of the adventure pack are used to listen to an audiobook spread around different sections of the park. All information are packaged in form of playful fairy tales that describe the environment and its meaning.
Jeg hedder Papaya, jeg er en papegøje, og jeg er din ven for den her opdagelsesrejse.
After every adventure, you can keep your droid, return the kit to your library, and unlock the whole story.
Den her træ er rigtig gammel.
Thank you, Big TV, for the footage. Okay, so let me just quickly show you the journey, the customer journey. So people would get aware of this backpack through the website and through the posters that we could hang here in the library or in the kindergarten, schools, and places for kids and parents. The backpack will be equally important as other books. So if we're talking about the backpack that is dedicated for botanical garden, it will be placed in the nature section, in the shelf where you can find books about animals and plants. You can learn this quite easily and quickly, just through your card. In the backpack, you will find a book and drawing book, some stickers, and a map. So you start with the book. The book is for you to introduce the kid to the parrot, to the botanical garden, and you can read this at home. You can read it in a cafe. You can read it before you go to botanical garden. And by the end of the book, you'll find this ticket, which in this case you can it's pushing you, your family, to go to botanical garden and exchange it for the map. And the map is showing you a journey through which you could find all these stations with audio. And here, when it comes to audio, was a very important part for us in our project. That's why we use this medium. Is the reason why is because we found out that the library has a lot of content, audiobook content, but actually families, they don't really want to use them. So by that, they could probably be introduced to another way of how you can discover the fairy tales and the stories, as well as there's something incredibly magical when you enter places like this, and a kid could listen to this story and hear the voice of the mouse that is living under the botanical garden. And this is...
Hej igen. Jeg hedder Papaya, jeg er en papegøje, og jeg er din ven på den her opdagelsesrejse. Jeg bor her i den botaniske have. Jeg er fra hele verden. Jeg vil gerne vise dig rundt, og så kan vi udforske nogle hemmelige.
By the end, you can sign up to the website and download the whole story from the botanical garden and collect all the experience, play it whenever you like to your kid. Thank you.
So I have the pleasure now to talk about the relationship that there is between the partners and the library, because until now we just talk about what is the relationship between the library and the customer, but we have to talk about where does this story start somehow. So first of all,
we know that there are a lot of institutions in Copenhagen that we are interested in for this like kind of selection of historical places, and they are under the same umbrella of the commune. The botanical gardens are more under the category of educational institution. So we have to think about how can we inform other partners, and we thought about providing information up on the website so that people could arrange some meetings in private and talk about it. But then we have to talk about how can we create this content. We know that for the library it's really important at the moment to engage the users in the creation of the content. And we just saw throughout our process how much it's important to engage kids in these kind of things. They have a lot to give. They have imagination that we don't have anymore, of course, so it's really important. Maybe design students are better. Anyway, at this point we have this co-creation workshop which creates this network between library, which would lead, of course, with this workshop with the authors, and then schools with kids, and the botanical garden, and of course all other partners. So there is this kind of collaboration between these three members. And in the backpack, we thought about putting these stickers that we use during our prototype and ask people to stick them all around the partner location to, again, ask for what would you like to ask here? What do you think is here? Talking about stickers, we were inspired by what TripAdvisor already does. So this kind of sticker which is certifying a collaboration, a partnership, and a certificate somehow. So we want to give these stickers to the partners that they can put outside of the location and say that this place now is unlocked for kids. So for us, this is really important. But of course, we have to think also about how it's how can a partnership happen, and we have to make it properly in the case it happens. And if it happens, we want to think about how was the overall relationship was, and we want to just change the stickers in order to explain that that place was from a specific time a partner of our service. But also we are trying to understand how can we use data that are provided from the library as a plus, as a value for the partners, because maybe the data that are around the landing of the books could be important. And for instance, it could be nice to have an overall view of what the service gave to the partner. So I would like to thank you. I'd like to thank you, my team. And if you want, we have a small exhibition of the service. You can listen to the audio in the plant. And I apologize for my terrible microphone skills. But thank you. Looking forward for your feedbacks and questions. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I love to hear myself speak, apparently. First of all, again, it's quite amazing what you've been able to do in such a short time. I really like the simplicity. We talked a bit yesterday, and you sort of the thoughts you have done since then, you might have done them before, but the thought of using simple things as stickers works well. But what do you think in relation to kids, in relation to the parents? You talked a bit about children asking questions. How would it sort of fit into getting non-users to use the library?
So we had this talk yesterday, but it's really important to say actually, during our testing, Marta, which was the mother that you saw, was really happy because for parents, this is really a benefit because they want to teach their kids, but sometimes the institution themselves don't provide them tools in order to do it.
And this kit actually gives them the possibility to teach their kids, but moreover, it's taking them more close to the library. And maybe they can learn more from their kids and become exactly more included in the service of the library.
Furthermore, we thought about promoting the service inside the kindergarten, for example. And when kids learn this experience or get to know this experience, they can teach their parents about it. So you have an inclusive reaction. So parents can be included by their children through the service.
I did ask the question a bit to hear you answer, because we talked about it yesterday, and I think it's really good. Back and so now we need to think, we don't want to do something else, but shows it needs to be simple. That's good.
I like the idea of this being an add-on to both the library and to the partner. Some of the libraries also already have sort of a small-scale adventure package, but doesn't do it in a partnership. So they just give out and say this is about team, which is in Sønderhavn. This is actually a partnership, and I think that's an add-on to the library, because right now we are curating all of the content. All of a sudden we have partners helping us curate the content and helping us design the package according to what they want. And I like the idea that you actually thought about statistics and data. Benefit and what do we get out of it, and seeing that having something to show the partner, this is actually a benefit for both of us, and we are having 50% increase in botanical books being lent out. So I think that's a great add-on.
During the talks, you said a lot that you'd like to have this opportunity for citizens to create the content of the library. That's why we decided to include these kids' workshops. So by citizens, we also mean kids that are 6 years old, and they could create their own stories inside the castle in Helsingør.
So, what?
You should probably rely.
So, did everyone get to see this? Did you guys actually write this story?
We actually, Monica also draw all the illustrations. We wrote the story and we designed the book.
Yeah, so it's really lovely, and so this is just quite specifically about that aspect of the service. In terms of the content creation, I would love to hear more about the workshops that you described quickly, because that's where the content will be created, right? And I think that that's such a hub for this service, like Armia. So how would you tell me again more deeply how you would see that through, if it weren't you, Monica, hand drawing every story?
I think yesterday we talked about it a little bit briefly. We have to be honest, like we didn't find that much time to go deep into this topic. But we talk about the library has its own community of artists and writers that could influence this. So maybe the workshop could be between botanical garden, for example, library, kids, and this writer. So the content will grow up through this brainstorm huge session, which could be a separate event. That way it's also an additional value. What else? We've been talking about the library can print those stuff, and actually they're pretty, let's say, relaxed about producing this kind of a content. That's what we heard yesterday.
Just a little comment on your presentation, because I thought it was really brilliant that you showed us how much fun you had during your work. So that's just I thought that it came through quite clearly that it also had been a fun journey for you. So, and otherwise, I think that's especially about the partnerships. That's not a question, but it's a comment regarding the partnerships. I think there lies so much strength in that, and it's not an area where the libraries historically have been too strong, but we're working on it. So, ideas like this are very welcome. So, thank you.
Thank you.
You guys could partner the culture and content. We are all inclusive.
Done.
Can I just make a quick comment regarding creating the content? Because I thought your thoughts about it, we talked about it, I guess it was really, really good. And there's big potential in creating partnerships where you have, let's say, Botanical Garden, you have the library staff who knows a lot about literature and knows about what kinds of authors could help create that type of story. And so that's a really big potential. And in that way, I really positively believe that the library is very open into doing things like this. So.
I really liked the fact that you had an exit stage to your service. It's really nice to see someone think about that constantly, even though you don't know what's going to happen at the end of this. It's nice to see that. And actually, the bit I'd like to hear a little bit more about is how you see the service extending into the library. So when people have gone out and had this experience with their backpacks and they're bringing them back to the library, how does it then, what happens after that? How does it extend both in the physical space of that library and in the digital space? So you're really bridging, the excitement that they've had around that experience into further exploration.
So our, let's say, afterlife in this sense, like what happened after for us was more about in the digital space in a sense, because people after this get this collection of audio. So we thought about using the already existing website, which is used for booking and checking availability, and also seeing your chronology and history of books that you landed or you're landing. And what we thought about it was exactly to receive this audiobook of the whole story. And again, it's a way of not engaging screens for kids because you're just hearing the story. About the physical space, so how it changes the library, we
thought about partnering with the, can you hear me? We thought about partnering with kindergartens and schools, and they could run workshops inside the library, for example. If the story ends, they could create an alternative ending, and those workshops could be held in the library itself. So you get a little bit of the story back.
Okay. A 15-minute break now, so if we come back at let's do 3:45, so yeah. And then we've got two more groups.
I hope you will add some time. Let's go.
And because it's going to hang out on air, it's powering the YouTube backend for live streaming, you can add a partner, and then you can switch. Basically, you can have multiple streams and you can go operator, so you click stream I want. So for Sophie's stream, you just log on to connect the Hangout to the phone, and and then it's just a mobile camera unit basically. It was a broadcast. It was dope. I was like, what is going on? It's so good. But it eats data. Like it's so bad quality. And even use a good camera, it's messing so hard. Can't even do over 720. Oh, see, that's cool. Like Dario got to watch it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Coke is good. But never invited. She was public. Why? It's a business. It's a business science. You learn it. You become independent. That was a mistake. I was like, fuck. I was dressing it. And switching to it's like. Yeah. Just something. What?
If you're not presenting,
Can you give me
yeah, of course.
Hey, is the auxiliary turned on?
Yeah, this one.
Okay, it is.
Okay. And where's the audio? Yeah.
So hello everyone. I'm Nicola. This is my team Kate, Grishma and Mary. We worked on a project called Copenhagen, and I'm going to introduce you to the beginning of our research. And so our starting point. So this is our target group. We're working with students aged 17 to 22, mainly academic students, and all of them were library users. So we formulated a research objective, which was understand students' perceptions of learning, looking at individual learning, collaboration, and the acquisition, sharing of knowledge in ways that allow students to come out feeling smarter. So that's kind of a big sentence, and it comes from different interviews we've conducted. So we started with some guerrilla formats, those short interviews that most of the time turned quite long. We started at Retro Nerdball, which is like a cafe where lots of students go. So there we spoke to three students, all of them library users in Copenhagen or not, with some like insightful comments on the way they're using libraries and what are the flows and benefits they had from different libraries, and always with that focus on working together and how they felt about it in the context of libraries. Then we went to a place called the Rainmaking Loft, which is a co-working space in Copenhagen. They've got also like 2 spaces in Berlin and in London. So quite a big group, and we went there because we thought it was like a space, but for a different target. So like it's more about companies and startup that are there to work, but the setup is kind of like the same. It's focusing on co-working, so there's an idea of collaboration and working together in a place. We also did some like way shorter things in places where students go, so like in the library and also at McDonald's, using this time some tools. With like the first tool was myself plus blank equal learning. So we asked people to fill in that blank, and we had lots of different answers for that, ranging from coffee to nature, or lots of different things. And we also asked them what could be a new experience in the library that doesn't involve book or internet. So just to know when you go off the context of the library, what people would want. And then we had 3 main interviews, like half an hour, 1 hour long interviews where we could go more in depth with 3 students, telling us about their perceptions of the library and what feeling smarter meant for them. So from all those interviews, we had insights generated. So you can read here some of the quotes and some of the themes that went out of those discussions. Learning by doing is one, curated experience. All that were turned into insights. So first one was exposure to different and contrasting skills give young students inspiration, the way It's the way like people cross-pollinate each other to discover new subjects, and how working together with people that are not especially in your field can enrich your experience. Learning by doing is generally preferred. Students crave more immersive experiences. Having books is nice, but if you can feel more involved in what you're doing, you relate more to your subject. Library users seek curated experiences similar to a gallery or museum. This is a comment we had quite often during our research. Like, people compare the library to museums sometimes, and how like those two experiences can overlap in a way. Excuse me. Students associate libraries with individual learning rather than peer-to-peer knowledge exchange. The library is a silent space. You're more focused on on your own experience. And people's perception of spaces come from a set of unspoken rules and visual clues. This is about that aura that the building itself has. There is a whole part of the architecture and the design inside the building, which is leading you to behave in a certain way. So from those insights, we generated some design challenges in how might we. So the first one was, how might we enable students who may benefit from someone similar or different skill sets to engage in dialogue without inhibition of approaching strangers? So as we discovered, the library is more of a lone, solitary place, and the context is not really meant for collaboration and just going to your neighbor and say, hey, by working on, maybe I can learn something from you. It's not something that can happen easily. We also asked ourselves, how might we highlight the sense of serendipity of the library to inspire students on their discovery journey, to encourage sharing and delight all users? And also, how might we empower users to create curated experiences for each other that encourage knowledge sharing and can be enriching for all parties involved, as a way of like a curation of museums, and we took all that from those insights. Then the ideation process, we went crazy, ranging from flying books to Fab Labs and stuff. We selected, by the end of the ideation phase, we selected 6 main ideas. I'm going to tell a word about all of them. So the first one here, which was introducing the virtual reality into the library, some kind of tool that lots of people told us about, and how virtual reality could be used as a collaborative experience, unlocking the experience and leave 2 people are sitting there and experiencing the same thing. We also had an idea called Pocket Bomb, which was the idea of leaving messages inside books, not about the book itself, but it could be about everything, and how this could trigger some empathy and experience between different users. We also had an idea called digital collage, which was some kind of like sampling books to help you with your research, to help you create more artistic pieces on how you could like take samples of books and recreate another content with that and sharing it with other users. We also thought about the open air library, which was shifting the library from its natural context and building to break those unspoken barriers. And also an event booking platform coming from the idea that some students told us about the management of the space. They can't always find a chair, although there's more down-to-earth relationship with the library. And also an idea about the collaborative book, which would like enable users to collaborate on creating content for the library. Sorry. We narrowed ideas to the open air library and the collaborated book, we started testing both of them. Then we ended up with this one that we pushed further. And
so from here we went on to experience prototyping. And the first spot that we went to test the open air library was at the Northwell Bridge. What we wanted to do was set up an outdoor co-working space, mainly to test the assumption that people would come, that people would work here. And part of that testing was to see what resources people were attracted to in the library. So incrementally, as the space grew, we added resources like pens, paper, free Wi-Fi, coffee. And I'm just going to show you a little bit of a video about what we did. Okay. So we need audio? Questions? Okay. Technical difficulties.
But we're doing a project We're doing a project for the library, and we wanted to see what in the library people are attached to, whether it's a coffee or the feeling of having books, like if it's having shared knowledge, what starts the conversation.
I'm afraid of what people are thinking if I spend the table and like new experiences. I'm too curious, that's what I ask.
Well, I was cycling past and I saw these two guys and I saw a table and I looked at a sign and it said something with graffiti and your name and I was like, ooh, I can do
Yeah, well, it's really, really fun.
I didn't come for the Wi-Fi. We didn't come for the coffee. We came just for the space and the people.
Me too.
So what we learned from this, we needed more chairs. That was the very first thing we learned. All of the chairs, all three of them got filled up pretty fast. So there's 2 seats on the bench and the 1 seat on the other side got filled up fast. So we improvised and we got a bunch of milk crates. The space needed to be clearly labeled and branded. And then we had a lot of times where we had signs up around the space, but people would look at the desk trying to figure out what it was and move on. So once we actually put a sign on the desk, that was when we got the first person to sit down. This was an interesting insight that we heard from a lot of people, that people didn't come to the bridge to do work. They didn't come to the bridge with that mentality, so that sort of set the tone for what the space was going to be. So no one came with their laptops. No one really sat down and read the books, even though that was maybe a conversation starter. And then the workspace, what we realized worked best with a sort of facilitator. So we had that first guy that was curious, and he sat down because he just wanted to know. He asked us if he could sit and have a beer there. I said, yeah, sure, why not, enjoy. He sat down, he drew a sign. He said, you know, this sign he did all by himself, you know, tell me your name, I'll make it into graffiti. And we found that having this facilitator was what made the space so successful. And then people didn't end up using the free Wi-Fi, or really drinking the free coffee, or reading the books. But what we heard was that the fact that all these things were there made it an inviting space. It made it someplace they wanted to go to. So the next thing we went out to prototype, this was a little bit more guerrilla style, but we wanted to test basically where would people work? Where are people interested in working? So we ran around the library asking people to circle and tell us where they would work, add something to the map that they felt there was someplace else they would work, and tell us where they absolutely could not get any work done. And we had a lot of varying responses, but for the most part, we found that, people said, I can get work done in green spaces, outdoors. I would like to work outside, especially in the summer and on the winter in Copenhagen. And I'm interested in working at museums. I'm interested in working at sort of interesting spaces I've never been to before. So this was really insightful for us. So our next round of prototyping was right around the corner from here at the Vorfrühkirche. I'm going to butcher that, I'm so sorry. And this, we wanted to test a couple of things, mainly that like the space around the library, see if people wanted to work in a different space, people would work differently. So we set up more tables this time, more chairs, and we kept the free Wi-Fi because we really wanted to test this as a working space and not just a collaborative space. And we put up signs in the library to guide people there. And here's another short video. So what we learned from this, more tables, more people. The more table space we had, the more people felt welcome to come into the space. And the more chairs we had, the more people would come. The amount of tables also affects the perception of the space. It definitely felt more serious if there was more tables and people really felt like, well, anyway, it affected the perception, and people also seem to work a little bit more individually when they have more space as opposed to as collaboratively as we saw on the bridge. And then once people were at the library, it was hard to incentivize them to change location. People had this idea in mind that they were coming here to this space, and we had a really hard time convincing people, well, just go right around the corner and sit outside. They said, well, maybe tomorrow. And for us, that was really interesting because we asked them to follow up on that, and they were like, well, if there was an event, I knew about it, I would come back, but like they had to have that mindset to be going to this space. One thing that we were really interested in is that people did do work on their laptops outside. We were wondering if, even though we had the Wi-Fi, would people take out their laptops? Would the sun glare be a problem? But we had 2 people who sat down and started doing work. So, and then the last thing was that props, books, and library associations are important. So halfway through, we realized that we wanted to have some books, and Mary convinced the guy from Cafe Paladin to let us borrow the books, put them in our space, and of course we would have given them money if we had sold any books. But people came to the space often just looking at the books, which is a really interesting thing. So, who's next?
You're into your feedback time, so you need to be pretty quick.
Yeah. Okay, so a little bit about our concept. We call it Copen. It's all about modular stuff. It's a modular co-working space that's seasonally set up in outdoor spaces and underutilized municipality spaces by the library for young students and other community members to promote collaboration. So I'm gonna skip this. Some nice key touch points. Let's go back. Well, it's just a quick run through about how you hear about the service. Then you explore the space, then you use it, and you advocate and leave it. And we'll just go into these later on, so that's why I'm doing it. So the spaces, you can work anywhere. We have Lars working here.
in different places. And it's we decided to go with modular furniture just because of the way it could be used, and like we brought them together and make other combinations with it. So Nicholas designed this amazing piece of furniture that has shelves, and you can fit two of them and they just close into each other. Do you want to talk a little bit more?
Yeah, it was just the idea of like going a bit deeper in the concept by also, since that thing would pop up in different locations, and also we want to enable collaboration. So having specially designed and branded furniture that could be arranged in different ways to like help you collaborating with different people if you want to work in a team, if you want to just like be close to that person who's working on something else. The idea was that the furniture should serve that purpose also. And since those spaces would pop up like every now and then, the idea of having them stackable and just easily movable wasn't so in the heart of that concept.
And yeah, in digital presence, we realized that people really respond to just web pages, iPad stuff, or mostly the students here that when we're doing guerrilla research, they really ask for Facebook pages and events, maybe ads. Yeah, and a little bit.
So our overall concept is of making temporary pop-up workspaces, like outdoor co-working spaces for students, and furnishing them with modular furniture so that we can fit the needs of the space, and promoting collaboration by eliminating visual cues and generally leaving spaces unsupervised and just providing people with simple resources so that they feel just that there's no forcing anything, but they still naturally, organically tend to share. And we would also have special opening nights and events when a new space would open so that people who are maybe regular users of the space would have the opportunity to present, give workshops or talks, or just maybe share knowledge in a more structured way. So the value proposition for the users is that they have more space, especially during crunch times like deadlines or exams, where they feel like the library might be too crowded for them. It's free, and it's just by nature of its openness, it's a more inspirational space. And they're not bound by any of the unspoken rules of generally isolated working. And the value proposition for the library is that you're giving increased value to the users, and potentially having partnerships with companies or just organizations that might want to add something to the space, and generally increasing the outreach. And the role of the municipality would be just to install the resources, just provide simple things like pens, papers, markers, and desks. Just providing information to anyone who has questions about the service, and curating opening nights, and maybe thinking about partnerships. So for our future iterations, since a lot of students expressed that spaces like museums and galleries tend to be very inspirational for them, maybe we could start hosting these pop-up spaces within indoor spaces in museums, especially when outdoor weather conditions are not favorable. And we could have partnerships with companies, like if Lego wants to put in something, or if any company wants to provide technological support. And we would want to open more than one space at a time, so that instead of having larger pop-up spaces, we could have multiple pop-up spaces, so things are more accessible for users who don't live near the library. And eventually extend this concept to more libraries all over Denmark. Thank you.
Any questions from people?
I think we spoke about it when we first saw the idea about sort of public library spaces. I really like the thought that you started thinking about the concept by thinking of a library without books. That books are not in themselves important. I like the digital layer, the way you thought about that. I think there's a real potential in not having sort of your own platform for engaging in different ways. But my curiosity is, how would this function? It functions really well for workspaces, but how would it, let's say, families? How would that kind of public library work? Give you any thoughts on that?
I mean, I guess, well, our target was students, so we were really actively targeting this at students, but like one of the partnerships we had talked about was with Lego, right? And if they could, this would be a thing that would spark, because we talked a lot about props and what are these props that sort of spark conversation and intrigue people. And one of the things we came up with was doing things collaboratively, like drawing, and that's what people ended up naturally doing. So if we had a partnership with Lego, I guess that would also be inviting to children and families, and maybe other partnerships for different spaces that would be for different age target groups.
I mean, I think it's like also the furniture and like it's the way, like the colors or like what you construct out of these pieces and how you set them up that could probably enhance that space, or like depending on like, yeah.
The props that were made functions really well in this situation. Did you sort of include some more specifically the users in what props would be needed? Talk a bit about tools that didn't come from the like the call, like the free Wi-Fi. Did they sort of make any other demands or?
We in that first prototype we actually started with incrementally. It was just a table and books. And then when nobody came, then we put up the free Wi-Fi and we put up the free coffee. And then when somebody said, "Can I sit here and drink and work?" and he was like, "Can you get me more paper and more markers?" And then we just ran to the store and got them. And so that's when we realized that maybe we should set up a system for requesting resources. But I mean, that would be a future iteration probably.
Very good idea.
We also thought about like possibly having themes. So what if you had instruments or some like just based on those locations, but we just wanted to start with a really basic student first.
I would like to say something. Well, ask a question anyway. I think it's a really great idea, and I think that the way you presented it and the stuff you've been thinking about giving the idea is really interesting. What I would like to hear your thoughts about is the digital layer. Is there any way that we can have some return to the other physical places, like the actual libraries? Or is there the connection between the pop-up spaces and the physical libraries? Have you given that connection any thought?
Well, initially, we really focused on like breaking the mental model of what the library was. So a big part of it was like dissociating these like the space.
And actually, what I really like about it is also the openness that it's like that they can. That it's not like putting it in a frame that's too narrow. So, but on the other hand, what's the possibilities when people actually engage in the space? That was not so much a question.
Yeah. Have you given any thought to the word temporary and how long is temporary? Because if you actually want to, if you have trouble getting people out of the library to first enter here, how long is temporary?
So we thought about that project as something kind of event based. So the place should be some kind of event, so people would know about it. That people should know that it's going to happen. So this is why we privilege the social network to announce that it's going to happen. And since those things are more on an event format, they have to be of a fixed duration, let's say something like 2 weeks or a month max. And then it has to, there needs to be another event coming. So just like to keep on creating those special moments. It's not your typical, just like library experience. We're also offering some special places to work in, and some, just, it has to have that little thing.
And I think part of it is it's like people become a part of this Copen community, right? You would like it on Facebook and you would know, okay, I went to that one time at the zoo. It was really fun. And then, oh, the next time it's in this design museum, I don't know, but oh, well, my one friend's going, and then you get introduced to something new and new points of contact. But I think the whole point of it is that they're short-lived. So, like Nicola said, I mean, maximum a month.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting idea to explore the partnerships, and it's nice to see that group doing it. I have some questions about what you learned in your experience prototypes. So I kind of want to understand a bit more about where the idea for this space being outside came from. What's the reasoning behind that? How that would change if you moved that inside. And the third question is, when you showed the video, it was like one table and everybody was interacting with each other, which went along with your kind of pollination and immersiveness experience that you were creating. And how did adding more tables and more chairs impact that experience?
Well, I think to answer your last question really quickly, we definitely, I mean, possibly it was also the location, but we definitely noticed that people worked more individually when there was more tables. It's like, I'm going to be at this end, I'm going to be at this end, and, you know, there's a little less. Whereas when you put a bunch of chairs around one table, like, different things happen. Your other two questions that are getting very clear. Outside, why we chose to test it outside.
I mean, we actually did, like before our next round of experience prototyping, we went around the library asking people about their location preferences. We took a map of like 15 shortlisted locations. And I think people weren't so concerned about whether it was indoor or outdoors, but more of the novelty of having a space that's not naturally a workspace. So, I mean, and some people expressed concerns about shelter if it was outdoors, but I think overall people seemed open to the idea being implemented wherever, just if it was a place that was special enough or new enough or open and green and inspiring to them. Yes, people were excited about, one of the options we gave them was a study boat. So students especially were very excited about the possibility of a study boat.
We've talked about the library.
It would be very successful.
I think also like the people's perception shifts based on the location. So on the bridge it was just naturally more of a collaborative thing. But as soon as we came into a space where it's like closer to the library and just having more tables and just people on their own and seeing someone already working there kind of shapes it. So you can't really account for how it's going to be used. I think that's sort of also what we have.
My question is, thank you very much. We need to move on to the next one.
Is Finn watching us? Finn, hello. Say hello to Finn.
Next, last group.
Hello? Wow.
So the last group of NG. Very curious little boy. We are Björn, Mikio, Mid, and Jimmy. Jimmy is 7 years on travel, and we are co-stars, and Mikio is going to kick it off.
I explained our starting point so at first. So our research objective is what does it mean for the library and the family to get smarter together? So, and our target group is families with younger children between 0 to 8 years, both user and non-user. So I explained research. So we conducted two kinds of interviews. So one was a depth interview and another is a daily interview. So she is the Catherine. We conducted the in-depth interview for Catherine, and we got many insights from her. And she says, so I spent a lot of time researching on which book I should get for my twin boys. So she has a twins, and she is not expert for finding a book. So she has trouble with many kind of the books. So next interesting quote is she is a librarian of the Noabro Library, and I asked many things for her, and she says it is important to talk to you, child, for their development. It is good for their professional and social development. So, and from the interview, so in depth and data, so we got some insight, and we introduced two kind of key insights. So one of this is seeking confirmation. So Catherine says seek right peers, so and seek confirmation and validation from their peers, and connect with parents is very important for parents. And next one is growing together. It's very interesting insight. And they said parents and children look for common activity, and that they can enjoy each other. When this occurs often, good things are built under the value of the activity being the time. So, so it is important for the family to create tradition and memories that help the family run together and improve the family bond. So this insight we make how much question? Oh, how much we question? Right. So how much we create an experience that allows gathering to be present that outside its physical space to encourage families to share and learn together. So from this how much we question, we made I did challenge and made a solutions. So you
So after that format week, we made a lot of ideation and a lot of rounds of choosing ideas and developed ideas and also tested them out. But in the end, we wanted to pursue an idea that is already existing, and it's book art. And it might sound familiar for some of you because it is. It's actually an existing service at the library, and it's a beautiful service. It's well funded by the government. It's a project that's running for a while, and it has a lot of good values. But it's sadly ending now in January, and we know that you want to pursue this idea and see how can this go further. We want to inspire you to how you can do this and look into different ways that could be possible. Because it has some flaws, it has some very linear and it's not that sustainable, even though the values are great. Bookstart is a service that enables parents with children between the age of 6 months to 3 years to read and talk together through a series of specially curated books that get shared between the parents that are part of the bookstart. So the last part is actually what we added on here. A lot of the things are already happening, targeting at a very young age. Yeah. I'm going to run you through our version of this. This is our very first idea, first sketch about how we thought it could run out. So we have the introduction, and here we thought we could have the midwife, actually the Sundhedsplejersken, it's a bit hard to translate to English, who might be the person to introduce this concept. Then we have the sign-up, we should have some kind of online platform, a way to see where these books should be delivered to, so an app perhaps. And this whole exchange, either giving or asking for the books at these destinations. Then they will read, 6 months has passed, and this whole cycle will go on until they reach the last package of books, which they will give further. And the whole idea is a bit like a game that you get this package. So in the intro stage, you just get it, so it's pretty easy. When you receive it, and then you have to give it away to get the next one. The values for this are to bring users there very early in the stage into the library, not the physical libraries as such, but the system that we created, and reach out to these people which are not in the space. Simply keep bookstaring running, which is a big value in itself, and create a platform that parents can share with each other. As Mikko said, this seeking confirmation is very important. You might find that their neighbor or the parent of the next street with the same age of kids has a lot of knowledge to share for you. And if you mention the value to the parent or even the kid, it's a lot of the values that you already have, that the children improve the social skills, which parents actually focus more on than professionals, but we get that into it too. Yeah, there's some things in this diagram we are not sure about, and that's what we wanted to prototype, especially the introduction. Who is this person? How should this work with the exchange? And would people even circle this around? The first question was, who is this person? And for start, I was the person. I acted out as a fake volunteer and met his friend actually, so we knew that she had a kid. And she invited us in. And we had a really great and long talk, and it was a good way to see the first expression of how would this meeting affect her and what was her thoughts about it. And we actually left this package to her that leads us to the next test, so she could give it further to the next parent. But we talked about the whole parenthood and modern parenthood and how she does it. And for her, it's actually a lot about sharing already. She shares books with her neighbors, within the families, and with a lot of other parents to say this too. And she introduced us to an app called Reshopper. I don't know if anybody knows it. It's super popular. Apparently every mother in Copenhagen uses this app. And it enables them to circle around used toys. Because kids grow up of them so fast. So she doesn't buy any toys. Everything she has is from this app. So there's a lot of interest in not owning stuff. She said, you can own 20 books, but the kid will only read a couple of them and then you exchange them again. Yeah, so there were already a lot of interest in this.
she also said that the first person could be, or me, the person here could be the midwife. So I went home, I called a lot of midwives, which apparently is really hard to get to. A lot of what we call voice messages. And Charlotte called me back the day after, and I asked her if she was a team leader, so she's actually leading all the midwives. And I asked her if she could imagine them introducing this service. And she said, everyone wants us to bring something. It was quite interesting. We didn't expect that at all. Apparently, everybody wants to get to these families at this age. So we had to change that completely from our plan. We went a bit back and looked back to what Bookstart is already doing. We're already sending out these letters when they're invited to the library. And they're really well written, and the flyers which you have in the Bookstarts are really good information for the parents. Katrina, who I interviewed, she read this overnight and she learned that you shouldn't judge your child on the things she does do wrong and stuff like this. She already learned overnight. And this could be modified to be an introduction, so simply as a letter in the post. Yeah.
So then we went on with prototyping, and the next thing we want to figure out is if people want to go and ask some other parents for the books, or do they prefer to go and give other parents the books? The way we did it, we went to the King's Garden, and we give some small wooden candy, like as a metaphor for books. And then we ask the parents to go and find me and exchange candy to their kids. In this way, we come in contact with a lot of parents. And they told us a lot of interesting things. As Björn already talked, they told about that you give that they give their outgrown toys and books filled out to other families and friends. But we also figure out that people prefer to go and give the things, and they don't like to go and ask for things, because then it's becoming an uncomfortable situation and like demanding things. So this make a natural choice for us to put it into our service as the way of exchange books. Sorry. Yes. And then we look into how this process could run, how it could pass on. And with Katrina, the day after, we sent her a message saying that today is a changing day, and today she should go and meet with Pavla and give her the books. And they did that, and they passed the books on. And besides just the books, they also passed knowledge about which books it was Catherine Boy's favorite books. And Catherine also told us that it was really nice with the SMS, because that is always something to know from the library, and also the emails. And it was really nice on the day to get it, like 3-4 hours before, so she was reminded about it when she was out of the house and she don't check emails during the day. So here we changed the service to, instead of, as Björn said, awareness, like information letter, that you pass the books on to another family, and we saw that the service could run. And here we have the final blueprint. From here you have the channels. Up here you have the different steps through the service. So you get aware, you get engaged, you join, you use, and then you can develop the service, and then you exit the service. In the middle we have all the touch points. And the main touch point, of course the main touch point would be using the books, and then around them you have like that you're available to receive new books, and that you can select the new destination for your books. The last thing we decided to prototype digitally. Here I'll show you how it looks when you want to find a person to give the books further to.
So here's Katrina, she's picking Clara to receive her books. And Clara is receiving this message saying that Katrina would like to give her the books tomorrow at 8, and she can accept, and Katrina will get the message back. So to wrap up the service, we have made a small animation I'd like to show now.
It is important to read out loud for your child in an early age. But when your child grows older, their interests change, and they outgrow their toys faster every day. Books stack up, and it gets harder to know which books to choose. The library are experts in choosing the right book for your child at the right age. The project Book Start is a collection of books that are chosen specifically for the age 6 months, 12 months, and 18 years old. You receive the first book collection at the door from a volunteer when your child turns 6 months old. 6 months later, you receive a notification that it is time to pass on the books to another family. On an online map, you will be able to see who the books can be delivered to. When you have decided on the ideal location, you exchange the books at the doorstep. You might even get invited inside for a cup of coffee and to share some knowledge. In the following days, you will receive the next collection of books from another parent. Sit down and enjoy the books with your child, because it is an exciting time to learn.
Any questions? Ready? Hi. Thank you for the presentation. I think that you really taken both out to communities thought is going to function or could function very well. Thrice that the well, it's not called the midwife, but but they were very positive about it, and so parents would be positive about them having that sort of function. So that gives me a new perspective, and then I really like the thought of the library when everything's circulating. We should never be in touch with the books. That's really good. So, my question is, when we sort of delivering the book to the next person? I could imagine that there would be a lot back and forth that didn't work out, or giving sort of inviting in. How should you sort of promote that as being part of the experience? Do you understand the question?
The system can run.
Yeah, but when people come to deliver the book to the next family, it's really good to get them in conversation. So we really want to sort of make them do that. But the question is, what do they gain? How should they gain something from it? By that, should the app include something that sort of validates if they are active in sort of the part when delivering new books and taking new books?
And we actually talked about how big of a role you should play in this, and we even thought about an app, but we wanted to do it as simple as an SMS on the website, because the interaction will only happen twice a year. Such a big gap between it, and let the interaction between the people happen naturally. And we would like to have feedback back to you also among the books, if they are useful or not. I'm not sure if that answers the question.
Could it be a, instead of sort of a personal, could it be a social event?
And maybe to the mother, back to the midwives, when I talked with her on the phone, she actually talked about the mother groups and having events there. And they have a lot of open houses because they were really open, even themselves, to the idea. They were just not open to deliver the message, throwing out the flyers. But events, yeah, that's a really good idea too.
I just had a question, and this is building on Renee's question. Like where the value is in this service is felt is in the interaction. The books, when they're at home with the family, don't really have such an association with the library as they do at that exchange point. And 6 months just looks too infrequent to me. Like I liked your kind of circular. Your diagram had a real sense of flow and movement to it, so you can see where it's going to get weak or where it's blocked in some way. So I don't know much about kids, but is there any reason why you have to only do it 6 months, every 6 months?
We actually just chose it because of what's happening right now at this start.
Yeah. And then the books that children librarian recommend is from 0 to 2. That is the same kind of books. And the reason, right, like you have like two kinds of pointing books where you have pictures, no, not so much text, and then you have the more pictures books, but there's small text and small story in. And then the reason why it's already a half year old, then is because we want to encourage the parents to start early. And then the one again at 1 year, that's because it's where the child starts to develop that language. So there they want to put extra effort into. And then the next one is 1.5 years, and that they often don't pick it up. So that could also be a kind of event, because here, as it runs now, the parents need to go to the library and pick up the books that they don't do it so often. We based it on what there is now, but you might be able to put in some more, so you maybe have these 3 months. That could maybe
choose yourself. So you have to sort of create extra developmental stages that the books match to. It was more thinking about just having different books.
Oh yeah.
I just like to say no, I just want to say it was really. I think it's great that you took an existing service and improved it. I think that's often a harder task to do than to envision something from you, because you're working within existing constraints. And obviously, as designers, it's very nice to like rustle up your own ideas and kind of nurture them from scratch. So I just kind of want to say well done for like taking that step up, recognizing, okay, there's this thing that works or has a lot of value already. How can we improve it to make it more sustainable so people can keep benefiting from it? So just
I would like to say something as well. I really like the idea of getting the end users, so to speak, connecting directly with each other. And I think it would be interesting to see how much they actually will connect in this delivering the books and receiving the books. But perhaps, yes, you already touched upon it, one of the answers in these groups or in other places that sort of could like enrich this way of delivering books or receiving the books. That could be a possibility. Yeah, I think it's a great idea, really. That was my question.
I love the idea as well. I think maybe it should be held the delivering of books as a social event. We also have to have a catalog of new books, books on the later often chewed to pieces by the infants. I think it's a great idea. I think it does something with Bookstart that Bookstart doesn't have already, because today Bookstart is a project for people in socially challenged areas, and everyone should actually do this to their children, whether or not they're in socially challenged areas. So I think it's a great add-on to Bookstart.
And actually, parents who wished to be in the system, and they just got there, so you have to live here to get it, so they have to move.
And in Sweden, they all get a kind of book like this from the midwife. Yeah.
Maybe I don't have to use it. Oh, maybe you guys could do it with the white paper library too. What do you think? Maybe. It could be cool as like a parent comment. Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you so much to all of you for spending your Friday afternoon with us, and to the visitors who came and saw from the library, and really fantastic work from everyone. We were, well, hopefully you can hear me okay. I'll walk over. I was really inspired by seeing all of this, and I hope that you guys were as well. And then lastly, like a huge thank you to our faculty. Today we have Jenny and Ailey and Rory and Pat all here. But throughout the 3 weeks, I think you guys have just been fantastic. With that, is there anything that they need to know about maybe collecting materials with you, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I guess want to say anything else, but on a practical note, we will package everything up there.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I would like to as well to say really big thank you. It's been a real pleasure working with you and seeing the product, seeing what you came up with, and I really, really, really like that all of you sort of have captured that telling stories means a lot to people, and it means a lot to people in specific situations. And the way you have made products that it's not necessarily a part of the physical library, but can sort of engage with society and others partners is really, really inspiring. So we, from now, will think a bit about what can we use from this. I was asked an hour ago, what should we do now? What are you doing with this? Well, I thought for an hour about this, and I don't know, because all these ideas need sort of to be thought through, and we might end up with other questions. I have had a talk about that some of you might want or should come back and make a presentation for another audience. When our colleagues hear about these projects, they might say, can we get an extra presentation? I know my chief, Jacob, might ask us a question. So again, a big thank you. And it's been hot in here, so if you want some water, a drink, that could be a soda or beer, we can get it for you. Just like so. Thank you.
Okay for this special for next year.
I just wanted to find.
Thank you so much again.
Yeah.